Let's move into our module of the week. For the module of the week, we're going to bring in Martin Anderson-Klutz, a senior solutions engineer at Acquia and maintainer of a number of Drupal modules of his own. And I think he's actually going to talk about his latest creation. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, John. Yes, this week I'm going to be talking about the Keysave module, which is brand new. It allows an editor or admin to save an entity or config form using Command S or Control S instead of having to sort of navigate over and click on the submit button. It's small by design, really just adds a tiny JavaScript library to simulate the click. So far, it's only being used by 2 sites, which might both actually be me. And it really came about because I was setting up a new Drupal site, going back and forth between kind of config files in my IDE and Drupal's web UI. And a couple of times had the experience of accidentally doing the Command S when I was making some changes and having to sit in frustration and watch that sort of, save dialog, scroll down over the web UI and then scroll back up once I canceled it. And started thinking maybe there's a way to at first cancel it, and then decided, well, maybe there's actually a way to make that work the way I had actually intended when I did the Control S. And so wrote a little bit of JavaScript. Thanks to the config forms or I guess object-oriented forms, it was actually pretty easy to attach that pretty widely through the site. And I've been using it for the last few days, and for me, it makes a big sort of usability improvement. It definitely makes an even bigger difference on kind of long forms like your modules forms or your permissions forms. And I think there's potentially an accessibility benefit. So instead of having to sort of like tab your way through a long form to get to the submit button, being able to do that with a keystroke. But maybe this is a good opportunity to open up to the group. Has anybody else kind of had that experience of accidentally opening up that dialogue while working the Drupal backend?
I'd like to first suggest a module name change. Maybe instead of Keysave, we call it Key and Scroll Saver.
Or content save or something. Well, the first question that comes to mind for me is, does this change the default submission behavior? Meaning, does it bring you back to the edit page and leave you there? Or does it bring you to the view page automatically as well? Because I feel like if I hit Control S when I'm working on like a node, usually it's like I'm just saving in progress. Because like if I'm using Word or something like that, like it auto saves all the time, and you I don't know, for some reason you save before you close, but usually it's like an in progress thing. You're still editing. You're making sure you're not going to lose your place. And so I'm thinking if I were to use this, it would be like I want to save the page, but I'm going to continue working. Does it do that, or does it just hit the submit button for you? And
yeah, it literally submits or simulates a click on the submit button. So as you say, it would be exactly the same as doing a full save in the sense of redirecting you based on that. There is a module that will autosave though, if that's what you want.
So Nick, I want you over the next 24 hours to pay attention to how many pages you scroll all the way to the bottom to in order to hit the save button, and then think, hey, if I took all of that time and chained it together, it would maybe be like a whole hour of my day, right? Maybe a half hour, I don't know. But this is going to save you that time.
I appreciate the sentiment, but I use Gin admin theme, which puts the save button at the top of the page always. So I do zero scrolling. But I do have one other question for you, Martin, about this. Is how does it dedupe multiple submit buttons on a page? For example, if you're using inline entity form or something and you have multiple forms, does it just save the parent entity on the page, or does it save the nearest entity? How does it know what to do?
So what seemed to be the most reliable was actually selecting it using the data Drupal selector attribute. And based on my experience, that seems to work pretty reliably in terms of saving the parent form, but didn't seem to, accidentally trip up and submit sort of, as you say, with a nested entity form or anything like that. But, it is early days and there may be more work ahead in terms of making it more reliable. I expect that as people use it with things like paragraphs and other kinds of modules. There will probably be some more work to be done to make it work across, the thousands of Drupal modules. But certainly for basic use cases, it seems to work pretty well so far.
Great. And I really appreciate it, Martin, as somebody who supports customer sites with all different kinds of themes. Having to scroll down the bottom, especially for permissions and such, it's going to save me a lot of time. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wait, does it work on the permissions page?
It works on the permissions page. Made sure specifically to include that one.
You have a winner there. All right.
Yeah, it's great utility. And I love these type of modules that are like, if you need it on a site, you can install it, but it's not like it's not one of those ones that has like 50 different features that you don't use. It's very, very specific.
Awesome. Well, Martin, thank you for bringing us your latest creation, and let's move on to our primary topic.